What up? This is Sean. This is Lone with the New Old Heads podcast, and episode 428 is on the docket. This week we talked about Conan O'Brien's joke at the Oscars about Drake. Was it out of bounds? But also Elliot Wilson had an interesting response to it. He said it was disrespectful to both Kendrick and Drake. We also talked about Curtis King and Professor Skye's conversation on white YouTube creators in hip-hop, whiteness in hip-hop, a bunch of stuff that kind of goes along with that conversation. We also reacted to a Dig in the Greats video where he referenced the Suno AI owner, saying that essentially making music and the barrier for entry is too high because it takes too long for people to get good. There's a lot of conversations there. We also did like 5 or 6 reacts that are Patreon exclusive, so check that out. And yeah, let's get into it.
You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7th, surrounded by the good brothers, starting off with my man Jay Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Just vibing right now. Just vibing.
My man Lonegevity is in the building. How are you, good sir?
Doing all right, man.
Good to see you. Good to see you as always. And my man DJ Jay Diff. What's happening, man?
Salutations.
All right, everything good, Joey?
Yeah. Pretty cool, man.
You guys are so positive. I love you guys. Just come on and you're so positive for the beginning of the show. Salute.
That's what good weather does.
All right, today, let's see what we got today. Shouts to everybody who's potentially in the chat, potentially not, potentially watching on our Patreon, and potentially watching wherever you're potentially at.
Yeah.
Potentially.
A lot of potential.
A lot of potential. Shout out to Beely, too. Beely's in the building.
Yeah, we like potential. All right, so did anybody watch the Oscars? I didn't. All right, so Conan O'Brian hosted the Oscars this year, and he had a joke about Kendrick calling Drake a PDF. Also adding in a jab at Drake's now defunct lawsuit. While many folks found this funny, even some staunch Kendrick defenders, if you will, some of them weren't even impressed. So we have a little clip here we'll watch.
It didn't make me laugh. I get that it could be constructed as like a clever written joke, like, you know, wrote the joke. You didn't write a funny joke. It wasn't funny. I get the structuring, right? It's like, because I'm a writer. I don't know if you guys know. Yeah. That, you know, okay, like, it's a big moment. So, of course, something has to happen where Kendrick has a moment where he's calling Drake a out. Like, I get that, right? Because we saw it at the Super Bowl, saw it at the Grammys. Yeah. Aha. And then he takes the killing lines and say, and I'm lawyered up.
Halfway through the show, which means it's time for Kendrick Lamar to come out and call Drake a file. Don't worry, I'm lawyered up. Anyway.
I didn't grab the low-hanging fruit. I didn't repost Conan's shit. Oh, my God. Conan got that off. That's corny. What I was look like outsiders of the culture trying to attach themselves to culture. I think it's offensive to Drake and Kendrick. It's not cool.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a tad bit of a reach. And in my personal opinion, it goes to the fact that this rap battle is something that is bigger than hip-hop in itself. It pretty much surpassed that when it became super popular. And it became super popular, of course, across social media. Drake's one of the biggest pop stars in the world. Kendrick is one of the biggest hip hop stars and pop star in the world. I mean, they both are in the same vein, so to speak. It's just one has a different style than the other. But it's something that encompasses American culture. And I think sometimes we forget that it is American culture at the end of the day. Now, identifying with certain things in the culture, that's when it can be like I can pick and choose what's for who and who it isn't for. But this is something that happened on a national stage, and then it was at the Super Bowl of all places. So I mean, once it crosses a certain threshold, in my personal opinion, I think it is just part of culture altogether. This will be something that's in a Trivial Pursuit game in the future. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I didn't see it as disrespectful. I didn't think it was like crazy funny or anything like that. But it goes to show how far and how I don't want to say important, but how popular and how out in the open this battle was.
Yeah, I don't understand why it would be. Maybe I'm not supposed to, Elliot Wilson, but like I don't understand where the disrespect really is. Like
as it relates to the culture or to those two guys.
Really, either. I mean, I guess. I mean, Drake disrespect is just par for the course right now. You know what I mean?
It's just what we're doing.
It's just what it is. But like, I don't know. Elliot seemed to, I don't know.
A little excessive.
Seemed very excessive to me. What were you going to say though?
He seemed like he was a little upset about it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I think how upset he's, to Terry's point, it kind of looks like it got under his skin. He really was. I'm not going to say bothered. You know.
No, I seem bothered.
He's a little bothered. A little bothered. He's a little
maybe
bothered.
Conan denied to, do an interview with him or something.
Well, actually,
That's usually when he
who
gets
knows?
upset.
Yeah, that's somebody probably said no to your point and was like, all right, cool. But yeah, I think this is a little extra sauce on this one because to Terry's point, it's already been everywhere. So it's not like you were trying to jump on to something that's not already all over the place.
It's not something that he wouldn't do. Conan O'Brien wouldn't do. I mean, if
Right.
you've watched his show
No, for sure.
in the past, this is like on brand with what he does.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that the audience got it. So they understood what was going on.
Yeah.
That's why I think the line as far as culture and it being acceptable on one side or the other is kind of washed away because of, you know what I'm saying, what it was.
I feel like the argument for hip hop being foundational black culture, which it is one thing, but this, to your point, this has surpassed that and gone into American culture at this point.
Yeah.
It's big. And it's actually bigger than that.
Yeah.
Even further.
It was at the Super Bowl, guys.
Yeah.
It was at the Super Bowl.
It's actually international at this point because Drake was a part of it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got anything else, Jay?
I mean, I don't know.
did it make
why.
you feel uncomfortable?
No, I mean, it was the one part of the Oscars that I actually checked for.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I looked at what all these people nominated for stuff. I was like, I ain't seen none of these movies.
Yeah.
None of the stuff that was at the Oscars was on my radar at all. That's much of Hollywood's problem, but that's neither here nor there. But you know what? There's been times where like, man, well, why didn't they mention this? Because it's like we're part of culture too. Like, because it's either you leave us out or you include us, and we feel like you didn't include us in a way that we find appropriate or timely. Like I said, it was halfway through the Oscars, when halftime of the Super Bowl. The whole thing with the lawsuit. I thought the joke was sharp and fit exactly into. As me being a fan of Conan O'Brien, going back to his, when his show would come on after the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And I felt like he got a raw deal when he got the Tonight Show. A lot of people don't remember that. Yeah, man, I've always thought Conan O'Brien was funny and right there on the cuff. And so I thought this was actually funny.
It was humorous.
I have no problem with it. And I don't know, sometimes we got to pick our spots, man. This isn't something that, as someone who tries to represent the culture and thinks I'm at least a little bit a part of it. This wasn't anything that I was going to jump out the window on, So I don't know. Like I said, maybe Elliot has some other issue with Conan O'Brien, and it seemed like it bothered him almost a little bit too much.
This is not the time to play there's plenty of time when it fits to play the culture vulture card, but this ain't that.
That was the aim. I think it was more so him not feeling comfortable of him talking about it. Like when I think of a culture vulture, I picture somebody that's trying to attach them to it and emulate. I don't think what he did.
That's a good point.
Category.
That's a good point. That's fair.
Look, some people just don't like white people.
Well, no, I mean,
yeah.
That was actually kind of a bar in reference to Kendrick saying some people just don't like the West Coast. That was a miss. But,
It's all right though.
Conan's joke was better than mine.
Once again,
he wasn't checking for that one. He wasn't going to say that one.
timing, comedy. It's all.
Yeah,
It's a lot harder than it looks on TV.
Yeah, everybody relax, man, on this one, man. Just relax.
It's just part of the culture, man. We got to embrace that.
You got to understand, like, you can't invite people in and then be like, hey, what are you doing in here?
Yeah. Too late.
Fair enough. So Professor Skye, who's a French professor who's got a YouTube channel, we've reacted to some of his stuff in the past. Shouts to Skye. He recently joined Curtis King TV, Curtis King's show, to talk about a handful of things, including one particular segment about white YouTubers and his belief in their role in the predominantly black hip hop space and what that is. So let's watch this little thing and kind of interject as we go, and we'll talk about it a little bit deeper.
Okay.
There have been a lot of people who have taken advantage of this time period and happen to be, folks who don't look like the majority of the culture. And they've added their voice to the conversation. This is not one person, by the way. This is multiple people, by the way. It just seems like they lack a self-awareness. Instead of saying, like, I know I'm a white guy and I understand what the optics look like when you first see this. But by the end of this, you'll understand how tapped in I am, how much I'm willing to learn also in the process. How do you kind of see this in terms of the disconnect that some of the content creators and maybe even just commentators in general on the culture are having that happen to be in that category? Because this battle to me did more than just expose Drake. It exposed a lot of cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
And just a lot of just lack of self-awareness in people's roles as it pertains to hip hop as a culture.
It's a bigger question, right? Because there's the general question of how to be white in black spaces. And the main thing to understand is just never get comfortable, never think you belong anywhere, and always understand that you are a tourist. The battle, because it was so ubiquitous, I think a lot of people just sort of jumped into it. And I mean, I'm lucky, right? Like I'm 47. When I was 20, I was the kind of white guy where I wasn't in community. I'm sure if I had a camera on me when I was 20 years old and Drake came out, I probably would have not known all the things that I know now. I probably wouldn't have known to really understand my place is to not be comfortable. Like there are places where I'm comfortable on my channel. When I'm talking about Radiohead, I have no problem because those are a bunch of pasty white dudes who overthink and make weird stuff. Like systemic racism is a real thing. And there is a degree to which white men, even if they don't think it out loud, they do sort of feel that everything belongs to them. It's something that I don't like to admit. I don't like to say, but it's just true. That's sort of the way systemic racism works. Like the same way that men think that things should just go a certain way. So it's not surprising to me that people have a hard time when that's called out, because that's an uncomfortable thing to know. That's an uncomfortable thing to think. I don't like saying it out loud. I don't like it being true, but it's like, you have to constantly fight against it and constantly think about it.
So there's a lot being said there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Mikey,
what do you think about that?
Yes, white content creator in the hip hop space. What do you think about it?
It's cool. We actually have one.
I have a lot of thoughts on this. So much so that I've already been materializing like a video to talk about this outside of this even. I'm going to talk about it tonight, but
yeah, it's
a very complicated conversation in general. I think there's a lot of truth in what he says. Obviously, I agree with almost everything of what Skye talks about in here in general. The part that I think I struggle with a little bit is the part where, and it's not even that I don't agree necessarily, but it's the part where I'm supposed to just always feel uncomfortable and always feel like I don't belong and that I'm always a tourist in that aspect. Even though I agree to one extent, there's a lot of thoughts that I have on that I have not fully materialized that are very complicated around that idea. So yeah, but that's in general how I feel. But in general, but also at the same time, like one thing that I have to constantly challenge myself on is, are my egoic feelings about me, a white person who did not grow up in hip hop culture, right? I didn't grow up in it. But the second half of my life, I feel like it is everything that encompasses me no matter what I do. It's like, it's just what it is. It's the juxtaposition or the connectivity or it's like hip hop culture and black culture, right? I'm not black.
Right.
So that's that off bat, right?
Yep.
But then the question becomes, well, if hip hop is foundational black culture, which it is, has it turned into more so Americanized culture? Right. So there's that conversation as well. And then there's the whole part about being an MC, being a producer, being in all these spaces, doing all these things that I've done, and having the ego that comes with wanting to be proud to be a part of the things and the positive things that I'm doing within said thing, but also not by everybody, but in general, like this overarching message that I should not be necessarily proud of it, or that I have to, there's like a limit, there's like a cap in general. And to me, that is an ego type thing, which then goes into another whole conversation and thought pattern, which is around, does my own personal feelings of me wanting to be just normal in this space and just be a part of the thing that I'm a part of without having to be questioned all the time, is that just an ego thing? And at the same time, does it even really matter? Is it more important? Is the protective nature that people have over hip hop culture, is that more important than my egoic and my personal feelings? And I think that that's the case. And so that's what I wrestle with back and forth, of this place of where do I fit? Where do I align? You know, I feel like people that know me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the same time, when you're out here in this space and you're having conversations and we're bantering about whatever we banter about and we talk about whatever we're talking about, when you do it in front of a camera, in front of a whole bunch of people that don't know you, don't know who you are, don't know any of your backstory or anything like that, you're automatically this to somebody. And it's what it is. I've accepted it, but it's also something that I am, to Skye's point, always conscious of. I'm always uncomfortable in that space. I'm always extremely aware and conscious of how I'm moving, the words that I say, how I interact in general, because I understand how things can be perceived and I understand where the spotlight is looking at me in a particular type of way.
I think I want to stay with the conversation about comfort, because that's one of the things that stood out to me, is when he said, you know, you don't want to get too comfortable. And I guess my thing is, there are examples of people that can get too comfortable and begin to misuse,
for sure,
their said past, or however you want to word it, being able to be entered into the culture. There are plenty of instances where people misuse that due to a heightened level of being comfortable. So that was one thing that stuck out to me, because to your point, that's technically not fair. You want someone to pour into the culture, or give them access to pour into the culture, but you don't want them to be too comfortable while they're doing that. That doesn't make sense to me. But I also understand the flip side, because there are people that get very comfortable and totally abuse, said privilege.
And I think that's where that last piece of conversation where I talked about the ego versus the greater good, if you will. Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm even different than Skye. Skye's like 4 or 5 years older than me. He's a French professor. He's never been an MC. He's never been a producer. He's literally a commentator. He's a fan. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm a fan too, but like, I've literally been doing this for 20, 25 years too, in different capacities. So even between him and I, we have a different type of, dynamic between us. But at the same time, I don't see a lot of people like Skye out there in this space as hip hop artists or as hip hop media commentators. Most people are what he kind of described to himself as like the 20 or 25-year-old, somebody who is operating in a space without really fully understanding a lot of the history or anything that goes into anything. And I think, and that's what I always end up leaning towards, of just being like, to his point, like always just embracing just being uncomfortable, because it's just kind of what it is, and the criticism and everything that comes with it.
I was just impressed with his level of accountability. For sure. I'm talking about Tim, but go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry.
I think he's coming with the difference between you and him is he's a historian, so to speak. So he does this from a respect for hip hop and not being a part of it, but he knows a lot of the history of it. I think that's the difference between him and you. You actually have an appreciation for it, and it's an embodiment of yourself. It's not an emulation. Whereas I think that some cats, like when you get involved with like the frat guy, that hip hop is a phase, and I feel like it's mine, and I feel like I can say all of these words, but I don't live this life. I go back to my suburban home, and I don't talk like for instance, it's the guy that walks up and says, "What's up, dog?" You know what I'm saying?
The T-dog.
Yeah, that person. But then you're somebody different elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think that's thinking that just being cool is part of hip hop is not where it's at. I think that's one of the things that agitates me. Now, there are some people that feel like they're supposed to be a torchbearer in the space, so to speak. And those people they rub me the wrong way too, because it's like you said, I think you can be a guest and still be a resident in the culture.
I always view it as I have a permanent spot in the guest house.
I think it's a little
but that's the way I've always kind of viewed it. Is it's like I'm here, I'm just like, I'm not out in the front,
To Terry's point though, when he just said you're a little bit more than that, it's because of what you've sown into it. So you've really actually sown stuff into the culture, like put forth effort to better yourself and teach others and produce and write and all. Like you're actually a part of it versus some people that are just kind of.
Some people exploit it.
And that's the word I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for.
That's what bothers me. Like, so you have people like Adam 22.
Yeah.
That I don't really know his history, but I know what he reports. His genre of hip hop that he reports on is not conducive to the culture. It does not bring the culture up
in a positive light.
It's
just a profit off of it, essentially.
Exactly.
Facts.
That's all it is. It's a money grab. He has some friends that he's cool with and they make money off of allowing him to do that in their face, so to speak. Because they're there.
Yeah.
And he does it, and he's made a lot of money on this particular style of content.
Facts.
It's similar to Academics. Academics isn't a white man, but he reported a whole lot on the war in Chirac. Never been to Chicago, doesn't really know the ins and outs of what actually happened, but he got his start, his fame from that particular type of content. And that's where the vulture thing comes in. I think when you're approaching it as somebody that wants to act like you're the champion out here of this said genre, as somebody white, that's when it turns into a vulture situation. That's when it turns into, I don't respect you, or I don't respect how you feel about certain things. There's been people that comment on some of our stuff that I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
You don't have a dog in this fight.
Facts.
You can be, like you say, being a guest in it and being welcome. I don't think that necessarily has to make you feel uncomfortable though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I would agree.
Because at the end of the day, and I've been speaking this a lot on hip hop in general, a lot of this has formed into American culture. So there's going to be some things that are going to apply to you regardless, because it's evolved. That's what things do. It's like, we all watched MTV before rap music was even on there.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a part of my culture. That's still a part of my upbringing. You know what I'm saying? I took something from that. That doesn't mean that I'm trying to be like that and emulate that, but it's still a part of what sewed me together. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that, and I'll let you talk, Jay, but I feel like the uncomfortableness around it a lot of times is also understanding that there's responsibility, like a major level of responsibility of, sounds stupid, I don't know how else to word it, but not being one of those white dudes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Because there's a lot of those.
I know, but it's like
lots.
Trying to be a good example like trying to be something that people can especially white people. A lot of times when I speak on this stuff in general, like especially when I talk about like race relation stuff, I'm talking to white people in general, right? I'm not talking to black people. Black people,
100%, yeah. 100%.
So it's like I'm trying to be an example for how to react, how to, I don't know. It's like that. It's like that, though.
I'm going to rephrase it for you.
And I don't want to center this conversation around myself.
It's not.
This is just a general
white privilege.
we just have to use you as the example.
Yeah. We can't speak from this position.
Yeah, you're right here. So,
I think when you say trying, I think that you have to rephrase that as embodying I am. Because you live a certain type of way.
That's
it's
the
not
point.
Like you're not trying to live like somebody in the shadows, acting like this is you. This is you.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
That does not apply to you.
No, for sure. But at the same time, like I'm also somebody who's very conscious of the things that I say, right? And so there's different interpretations and there's different ways that I can say multiple things that can be interpreted in different types of ways depending on who's listening. And so I feel like there's just even more heightened importance for me.
What do we say a lot on this show as it relates to artists and their level of what? Caring. You care.
Right.
You care how you present yourself. You care about everything that you put your work, put your name on, and the brand that you built for bringing down the band, all the rest of that stuff. You care about it. So that's shown in the way that you move, in the way that you do content, in the way that you're on the show. And there's a lot of people out here that really just don't care. They're here to exploit, they're here to profit, and they're here to move on. Mm-hmm. And those are the cornballs. Those are the people that are actually just like Terry talked about with the vultures. Those are the people that we don't like. I'm talking about all of us, not us versus you.
Yeah,
all of us.
I don't like them either. So,
exactly. Yeah. So. That's what we not rocking with. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I was thinking about just the word. It becomes trendy to say culture vultures.
Oh yeah.
But then when you realize what a vulture or a buzzard, if you will, depending on your regionality, is, it's picking at the carcass of something that is dead. Okay, and so I don't think that's really appropriate a lot of times. I think we could call these people interlopers, people who are involving themselves in things that they have no business in.
Smart.
I think, and that just doesn't apply. When this whole Drake Kendrick thing jumped off, there were people who quote unquote are, hip hop outlets, if you will.
Yeah.
Or maybe they might have created some of these outlets when the whole Drake and Kendrick thing kicked off. And I feel like some of those people were interlopers. They didn't have
That's actually what they're talking about.
Yeah.
The what's the dirt stuff.
That guy specifically.
And
which I don't even know, but I think he got his prominence through the Kendrick and Drake stuff.
He got it by being somebody that made content that he didn't really write. He's using bits and pieces from other people, creating his content.
Oh, I see.
And got very famous.
I try to stay away from the YouTube drama.
Popular from on YouTube by the Drake Kendrick drama.
I see.
So I think, that's kind of where I thought they were going, Jay, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. So I mean, and my whole thing is like I can have respect and love. Even when we talk about how hip hop is, foundational Black culture. If my whole thing is just with anything, this is across the board, whether, because like I said, I don't know what Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and them are doing, what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and it says there was some crazy rock beef and I try to jump into that and say, I would be they would probably have to call me out as an interloper. Like, I don't know what they're really talking about, but if I'm just trying to get my views up, what I'm saying? Like, that's not cool, and my whole thing is, it's like, because we talk about people like academics and Adam 23 or whatever, and that's 22. I don't know.
25.
Whatever.
I don't give. Oh,
but I'm just saying that this is where I come at it from. Like, regardless of your upbringing, where you come from, because I'm very honest. Like, I don't come from the hard Scrabble streets of that birthed hip hop. Like, I am a Black child in the 80s of privilege. I grew up very Cosby like, if you will. Let's say Huxtable like. I'm not going to give him Cosby. Yeah.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
But the thing is, it's like anything that I've done, whether it's been the things I've written, my time in radio and records, the events I've hosted, is like I've tried to contribute to the culture and not just see what I can get out of it. And I think that's where there's a problem and where I call shenanigans. I try not to cuss. My mom watches the show from time to time.
Be careful now.
And, I see so many people, across cultures taking from hip hop and not giving anything back. There's always this thing that's like, okay, we can come and we can be a part of the conversation and we can get our little jokes off. And like, I mean, it was kind of like we saw with Conan and like that, the situation earlier in the show. But at the same time, like, hey man, Conan has put people on his show, to where they may not have been anywhere else. And not just had them to perform, but sat down and talked to them. So, fine. Conan, do a joke. It's appropriate. And once again, we are talking about American culture at this point. If we wanted to just stay niche and not have anybody talk about our stuff, then let's not take all the rewards that come from being a part of American culture if we want to stay niche. You know what I'm saying? We'll take all the money. We'll take all the exposure to an international audience, but then when we want to feel slighted and say, no, this is ours and we just doing this over here. It doesn't work like that, especially if you're going to take the money.
It applies to certain individuals.
It does. And like I said, it's about the people who we just feel are taking. Every time I see you, you got your hand out. You're never putting back into the pot that is hip hop. You don't ever have anything particularly intelligent to say. I mean, not even about it. Ain't got to be intelligent when you're talking about someone's opinion,
right?
You know, but sometimes we just get people who want to say, well, this is what I think. And it's like, yo, what if you contributed to where we should even care what you think? You know, you just out here as somebody who's seeing what you can come in and get. And, you know, when it's time to like really be down and really it's time to really contribute something, like you don't have time for that. You know, and like I said, that has nothing to do with color. You know, that's where a lot of times I feel like we get the game messed up, because there are people who are contributing across the board, who are doing things, who are in it for the benefit, not only of the culture, but for the people who created the culture. And those are the people that I would rather listen to on a regular basis. But we have so many people who have not only, they don't contribute anything, but they don't have any respect for where the culture comes from. And so that's where I have to kind of raise my eyebrow. And, you know, when I see these content creators, whether they be white, black, Hispanic, or anything else in between.
No, that's real.
It's almost like you can tell, though. Like you said, What the Dirt is a guy that Curtis King has had numerous videos calling him out. He also had an issue with the company man, Justin Hunt, as well, because he called him out of his name.
That's where it kind of started, really.
Yeah, being somebody that isn't of the culture, that's where you overstepped your boundaries right there. Because you can't demean somebody that is part of the culture and say that you don't sound like you are the culture. And you pretty much got on by the Drake and Kendrick beef.
Right.
Now, we're fortunate enough to be a podcast that has been around before all of this jumped off. We are true torchbearers of the culture, so it was something that we were going to talk about regardless. It wasn't like we jumped into the YouTube space just because we seen what the numbers were doing.
Thank you for saying that.
That's exactly what happened with a lot of these content creators that don't even know what the culture is. They can't hold a conversation about anybody else in hip hop but Kendrick and Drake.
People
That's
sweat.
it. That's pretty much where the buck stops. So you can't say that you're part of something that you know nothing about and parade around like you are. And I think that's more so the type of person that they're talking about here. They're not talking about somebody that actually, you know what I'm saying, lives it, sleeps it, embodies it, has been a part of it. They're talking more so about the people that have their fishing poles out, and as soon as something bites that looks like it's popular to talk about, then they pull the pole up and put it out there. You know,
like just don't show up for the beef and the revelry that surrounds the beef, but like then when we want to have an intelligent conversation about, I don't know, just the detrimental, you know, effect that some of this music might have on our children and our communities, and then you have nothing to say about that. And even if you do have something to say, you have nothing constructive to add.
It's all surface material.
You know, you really can't dig deep into anything else other than the sensationalism. And, you know, like as much as the Drake Kendrick thing, you know, it was culture, but it was sensationalism.
Yeah.
It was something that like we've talked about, but also we have hundreds of episodes where we did not talk about Drake and Kendrick. You know, and there's a lot of you who like, you just like, hey, it's like you keep poking a bear. It's like, hey, anybody else got any more diss tracks? And it's like, that's all you got to eat off of.
That's it. So if you had to talk about something else, you can't talk about it because you know nothing about it. You know what I'm saying? And he's also Canadian too. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a dirty foreigner.
What the dirt?
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, that's real, man.
This is a cool conversation for them talking about this. I think these are type of conversations in general they're good to have in general, and especially with more and more white people getting into these types of spaces as well. And not necessarily white people, I guess, but just people in general. But particularly white people. Look, I teach, and I have lots of conversations with a lot of young kids on a regular basis. You know, I teach about the beginnings of where sampling came from. And, you know, and
because you know it though.
But my
That's
point.
what he's saying.
My point is
I gotta make sure they know, man. People don't be knowing. I get offensive sometimes. I'm sorry, man. Put some respect on it, man. I'm sorry.
You know, like I had a 12-year-old student, white kid, probably last month or something, and we were talking about just. He's like, I don't like sampling. It's not, you know, it's not as cool as that stuff over here. It's not as, you know, so I had to we had to sit down and we didn't even do our lesson that day. Like we had an hour and a half conversation about where it came from, why it's important and all that stuff, you know, and those conversations, you know, with the barrier to entry to what it kind of is right now being so low, anybody can really kind of grab a microphone and just get on there and start talking, and anybody can become popular because we know these content creators right now are just younger kids, and they're talking to people that are even younger than them, you know, and it's important, I think, to have voices that, you know. Because,
you know, we're in an era where a platform can be the best and also the worst thing, to your point, because everybody has one. And everybody's not. I think you used to say, it was a line you used to say all the time where, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something to the fact where you alluded to everybody doesn't need to have, you know, a platform. Like it's not cool because everybody should have it.
It was related to opinions. Not everybody.
Or opinions. Opinions.
Have an opinion. Not everybody deserves a public.
That's opinion. The bar. Right. That's the bar. And that applies because now everybody has one. You can't turn from it. You
can't really police it either. So
you can't. There's no way to police it. Facts.
Which again is why I think conversations like this are kind of cool to have, or important to have.
Well, you know, you said, you know, you were talking to a 12-year-old student.
Yeah.
You know, or at least especially me being the oldest of the new old heads. I remember when with hip hop, we had to take whatever wins we could get because we weren't a part of popular culture. You know, even black, quote unquote, black radio stations would have, you know, part of their tagline is like, and we don't play any rap music. Like, and they were proud of that, like that they were shunning this part of black culture, you know, in lieu of corporate dollars and, you know, a certain audience. And it's just crazy. Now, I don't think there's an appreciation or understanding of where all of this comes from, because now hip hop is so woven into Americana. Like when you see Dr. Dre at the Super Bowl, and, you know, and then, you know, a couple years later, it's Kendrick Lamar. It's like there are people who don't have this recognition and understanding that it wasn't always like this. And so
there's still people that don't like it.
There's still people who don't like it. But you know what? At this point, they're kind of the outliers. They're the people who sound like, what are you talking about? So those people you see with the gray in their beard and them, you know, little limp in their step, like those people grew up and were outside when hip hop was a thing.
True.
You know, so that's where we are now. So when you're talking to somebody who's like 12 or 13, they don't remember any time that when that too, but they don't remember a time when hip hop was on the radio only at night on the weekends. They have easy access to rap music, hip hop culture. And it's always in their faces. And it's not like, it used to be like, a rap song is number one. And we'd be like, oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's not taboo anymore.
Now when a rap song, and not even like a rap song, is like some, hey, I went down to the store and it's on some happy-go-lucky type stuff. Is, you know, it could be serious, sometimes hardcore content that winds up making a number one song. So, I mean, I just think that we have a different appreciation for things because we didn't remember when it was always so accessible. And plus, you know, the people who were cultural curators, they were few and far between. You know, everyone wasn't lucky enough to have an opinion on this music. It was Nelson George, Fab Five Freddy, you know, Ed and Dre, whoever was writing for the source, and that was it.
But this still goes back to bring it back around about people who care versus those who, you know, don't care or whatever. When you talk to a 15, I've had this conversation with one of my cousins who's 15, and I felt old, super old for one of the first times. Like we the new old heads or whatever, but when we started talking about music, Big X the Plug, it was a Ronald Isley sample, it was a Willie Hutch sample. And I'm like, you know where that comes from, right? And they like, why? Like, why should I even, what you mean where it comes from? I'm like, you don't know about the Isley, bro? And I had to catch myself because I'm like, He's 15.
Yeah.
He doesn't know about the Isley Brothers. He doesn't know about Willie Hutch, the Mac, all that.
Why would
But
he know that?
Here's the part. The difference is you have a fork in the road. You can either try to set that person down to Lone's point, give them a little bit of game. You don't have to overwhelm them, point them in the right direction, or you can just say, all right, y'all kids just don't know what you're talking about and just leave it alone. That's the part. That's the moment. So I pulled up a Willie Hutch video and 3 6 Mafia. I said, you see how he flipped this and how he flipped that? It's the same thing. I saw the light bulb come on. I said, we'll stop for the day. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
At the end of the day, it has to be an appreciation for the culture more so than I'm just going to parade around it and play in the mud, so to speak, for a little while. And then I'm going to get back to my blue collar lifestyle and shut it off and sell out on the ocean in the yacht.
Man.
And just forget about that part because a lot of people use it as a phase.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the problems that I have with people that think hip hop is them just because you like it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
when it becomes something you can just take on and put off, and you show up to the club in your suit and you want somebody to play nothing but a G thing to make you feel good about yourself. That's the type of situation I don't like. If it just has, to me, it has to be something that lives inside of you. Mm-hmm. And I can tell by people by having this conversation with them whether it lives inside of them or if it's just an outfit that they're putting on for the day, the moment, the year, whatever, like a phase. I'm cool on phase hip hop fans, so to speak. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of we all go to concerts. You see a lot of them there. True. Because that's what they think is cool for now. I mean, we've kind of aged out of going to a lot of concerts because we're older. You know what I'm saying? If a particular artist comes into town, I'm gonna attend it. So I'm not at the concerts where there's a whole bunch of tinny boppers and freaking frat boys smashing beers against their head and can't wait to rap the lyrics to this song because it's in the concert and they feel comfortable saying it. You know what I'm saying? Those are the type of people that I don't appreciate and wish that they would get the hell on. There's a difference. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's kind of like, and I kind of see this every week when we're at Take That Tuesday and they'll be like, yo, play some Dre. And it's like, I almost want to play like something obscure from Dr. Dre.
Those are the type of people I think that aren't really welcome in the culture because you're not of the culture.
Yeah. Like you're whatever, when you felt like, okay, I'm going to be a part of hip hop and then you got out, like that's where you're stuck at. You don't know anything past that point.
Or people that only like Eminem. And I hate to just call people, because Eminem, I feel like Eminem embodies the culture. He is somebody that 100%. Lives and dies and is about the culture, but something about his fan base is not. Man. Like if you think about the majority of his fan base, they only rock with Eminem, and they can't wait to. Yeah, they can't wait to
Shout
the new Eminem and Tech Nine, and even Insane Clown Posse back in the day.
I think I know what it is though. I think a lot of white people in general equate skill and talent to technical ability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So because he can say this in such a particular type of way, and he's so clean with how he says the thing that he says, he's like, they put him on some sort of categorical list of like, well, he's this good. It's the same reason why Tech Nine is also somebody that they listen to, and also the reason why Ritz is somebody who these people also listen to. Mm-hmm. It's the same type of artist. It's these like super technical.
Yeah, and it's not to take anything away from those artists.
No, but it's
your
like
fan base is weird.
But that's what they gravitate towards for some reason, and it's, I don't know exactly what it is outside of like. Yeah, I don't know.
And that technical, to your point, especially about the Eminem fans, and like he said, that technical ability will leapfrog him over everything else. Yeah. Strictly based off what you just said. I don't care. There's nothing else to talk about the album sequence. We don't care about none of that. He's technically the best rapper ever, so he's better than everybody else. That's what we're here for.
Did you hear how fast he rapped and how good you
how many words he got,
and how much you could understand what he was saying? That's really what it is.
But once again, it's like I would have less of an issue with Eminem's specific fan base if they also liked other hip hop.
That's the hope.
It's like I just remember I remember I when I was working for this newspaper at one point, and it was when the Games album came out, the first one, the documentary, and guy in a couple cubicles down was like, oh yeah, can I check that out? I was like, yeah, sure. And he listened to it and he's like, yeah, man, I like that. But you hear that Eminem record on there? And I was like, this record is full of bangers. And you picked the song with Eminem on it as that was the intro. The top of the top. No, I can't remember. But I just remember I was like, that's not even the top 5 on that album. It was pretty good. It was a good, but there was some heat on the documentary was full of heat.
Yes. That's the little intro to the album was the song that Eminem was on. It was Game, 50 Cent.
What's that?
And Eminem.
You sure?
Yeah.
You're thinking of Patiently Waiting.
I was about to say because
that was on 50's album. And that song, incorrect. And that song bangs too. I can't even front on that.
Because the intro, the documentary. Oh my God!
That's
shout out to the good doctor.
Essays,
yeah.
Okay. But it's just the thing. But it's just like, hey, have you listened to this? It was like, I don't have much time for that.
Yeah. But it's because think about the commonalities outside of the technical ability. What is the one thing that all these people typically have in common as well?
What do you think?
They're Republicans most of the time.
Well, yeah.
I can't even give them that at this point.
I can.
because remember Eminem.
I can.
Remember Eminem gave when he said he wasn't down with Trump, it was like people who thought he was the greatest ever, and he was like
he said he wasn't down with Bush too, and they still rock with him,
and they still with him now.
Yeah, but
they're still confused. White people are generally confused about stuff like this. They don't know where to lie because, on one hand, hip hop is cool.
Yeah.
We want to be cool, but at the same time, I don't know. The economy, and Reagan was the greatest, right? So maybe I can just
any drugs here at all.
Not at all.
Maybe I can just kind of like them a little bit, and it's just this whole wanting to be cool, but balancing that. It's very liberal, I guess. Realistically, is what it is. But either way,
plenty of people.
It's like how so
it's your average person from Indiana in a random
exactly.
town.
So I can speak from a neighborhood that I live in, and having conversation with certain people and how they might play certain music around you versus what they actually rock with. You know what I'm saying? Like if I can have a conversation with you and you tell me, like I actually appreciate this from one of my neighbors. We're having a conversation. He was like, said something about TDE. So I'm just thinking Kendrick, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's like, man, I really like Sir, and me and my wife, we literally go to whatever city he's in to see his show. Like if I see this guy on just without having this conversation, I would have never thought that.
I can appreciate that.
So like people like that, even if you don't, if hip hop isn't like your number one genre, have an appreciation for it to where you're a for real fan of certain people and not trying to act like you're hip.
Facts
is different than somebody that parades around like, you know what I'm saying? It's that weird Halloween all year long in front of everybody type shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Until you decide that that's not you anymore.
It's like the opposite of Michael Bolton in Office Space. Like when he's playing at the beginning, he rolls the window up, but then he gets right back into it.
Ghetto Boys, yeah.
Just own it, Michael.
Yeah, own it. If that's you, own it. Just know when to omit what you're not supposed to say.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's get into this last topic here before we do some other stuff. It's been a light week, but we're a music hip hop podcast, and we dig deep because that's what we do.
Yes, sir.
We do things.
So on Digging the Greats, it's a podcast. We've actually referenced some of his stuff in the past. The ramifications of AI on art, music, and the youth were discussed. And in this particular clip, he shares a clip of Suno AI's owner saying that AI music essentially is here because people are bored making music, and the barrier for entry is too low because it takes too long to get good. I'm paraphrasing. You're gonna hear what he says exactly, but let's watch this clip where Digging the Greats breaks down why this mindset is essentially stupid.
It's really sad.
The CEO of Suno AI, an AI music generation company.
That is first and foremost giving everybody the joys of creating music. And this is a huge departure from how it is now. It's not really enjoyable to make music now. People enjoy
Why'd you say that?
I just got to pause and say he's an idiot.
He's a complete idiot.
He's the owner of Suno AI, one of these AI music companies.
Yeah, he would say that.
It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
You need to get really good at an instrument or really good at a piece of production software.
Yeah.
And the majority of people don't enjoy the majority of the time they spend making.
Yeah, people that aren't musicians and don't belong to be able to do it.
Yeah, he sounds like somebody who needs AI to replace his job because he doesn't want to do his job.
That's funny. That's funny.
Nobody wants to do their job anymore, so let's rely on AI.
Do your job, Suno guy.
Music.
If people don't enjoy making music, then what is live music? Torture for musicians? The reason teachers and parents are worried about students using ChatGPT to write essays isn't about the homework. It's because they won't be able to write. And writing is a fantastic tool for thinking and figuring out what you want to say. The reason musicians are mad about AI-generated music is because they want to go through the process of creating it. Writing and producing and performing music is a process of wrestling with an idea, figuring out what it is that you want to say.
Yeah.
I'm scared of the future.
Bro, this is really disheartening, man. This is really sad, bro.
It's just like,
so
I feel like our entire episode is this type of interesting theme today about, I don't know.
So
like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a YouTube channel where he talks about hip hop. Talk about the Suno guy.
It's really sad because I love how the guy from Digging in the Greats brought it back to, just education. Digging the Greats, I'm sorry. Brought it back to education and lack of ability to write and be creative. I thought that was dope when I initially watched the video, but the AI guy is just lost, man.
I don't think he realized what he was saying in the moment.
He couldn't have. Not the way he was so open about what he said. There's no way he understood the magnitude of what he was saying in the moment.
I think it goes down to this interesting conversation that we've had many times about how people just do not value art.
Yes.
Generally, people don't value it, and they just see it as like, we love art. We love it. We consume it constantly. It's literally in your car when you're going somewhere else. You're watching it, on Netflix, everything. You watch creators. We're watching a creator, to reference this. The Suno guy is making stuff for people to consume, and, it's fake art, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. And people don't like making music. But for him to say that.
Yeah, but
so openly though, bro.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, we as a society, we are leaning towards an area, and we're kind of going towards it very fast to where, like, we have to be very protective of art. You know what I mean? And just the creative space.
Be very,
in general.
very protective of artists.
No, that as well. But artists, yeah, the
artists and
art. The artists that are actually creating art. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because it's one thing to use AI as a tool, and it's another thing to just replace everything.
Shout out to DJ Nate Jeezy. He was a DJ out on the East Coast, and
he was a DJ. He's not anymore.
He still be DJing.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, Nate's still out. Nate's still out there. Don't do that, Lon. Don't mess with me. He had a conversation with him. It's funny that this is a topic. He literally told me a story about someone that wanted DJ lessons, and he told them the rate. This is how it works. This is how much it costs to get the equipment, how much you're going to have to invest into yourself, right? We know this story. I know you know. So she said, the young lady that wanted to take the class said, nah, I don't want to do all that. I just want to be able to take 2 or 3 courses so I can show up and just play music. It's exactly what we're talking about here. Nobody wants to go through the process. She literally said, just give me a couple classes so I can play the music. I don't care about blending it. I don't care about none of that. I just want to be able to play music and get paid for it. And Nate looked at her just like we're looking at this guy who's saying this. Literally.
This is why gatekeeping is still kind of relevant, because, look, this is exactly what we do at Decademics.
Yes. Yes.
Shouts to Metronome, Nick, and everybody teaches there. Like, we bring everybody in at the same level, no matter. There's very, very few people that come in that have some experience and they just need some supplemental courses, some advanced stuff. Like some people do.
Yeah.
But most anybody that says, "Oh yeah, I've DJed gigs or I've done this in the past," they don't know how to handle a turntable.
Yeah.
They don't know any of that. So they don't know how to mix anything. I have conversations all the time with my students about, like, shouts to one of my students, not going to name him by name, but this is the second time he's taken my course.
Yeah.
He's really interested. He's young. He's in his early 20s. and he's really trying to get it, but he's really struggling with this idea of like, I want to be able to do stuff right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, bruh, you just have to like embrace the suck, man. You have to like, you have to embrace being just ass for a while.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to, like, when I tell people my story about how it took me 5 years to get somewhat reasonably decent.
Oh man.
And I was practicing all the time. Like, none of my students have ever been that bad for as long as I was. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I don't expect them to, but at the same time, like, you have to go through the process. Like, you have to go through the process of learning something, because if you don't, it's just like he said about writing. If you don't learn how to write in all the ways that great writers write, then you're not going to know how to write. And it's the same thing with music. Like, I can't teach, like, if you want to come to my class and you want to be a producer, but you just want me to show you how to drag some sounds in from Splice and a couple drum breaks, that's not producing. I'm sorry.
This isn't the class for you.
It's not.
This is not the class for you.
So, but it's like teaching the culture around wanting to learn, you know, like, and wanting to like actually be the thing as opposed to just moonlight as the thing. And
This is a problem for the future, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm really scared.
Yes.
Because what this guy, he's a salesman at the end of the day. He's trying to sell his product.
Yep.
So he wants people to think that music is boring and nobody wants to do it anymore, which is a lie.
Yeah, that's
because music moves people. You know what I'm saying? So if people didn't want to make music anymore, why would they want to listen to it?
True.
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, we're creating robots. We're turning humans into robots. You're being so reliant on a technology to do everything for you versus actually having an interest in it. And I'm not speaking about everybody, because I don't think it hasn't taken a hold of everyone quite yet, as far as all of the things, all of the arts, you know what I'm saying? But to his point, people are using ChatGPT to write papers and not using any brain work. And I can attest to being somebody that used the 90s version of AI, which was Cliff Notes.
Yes.
Which didn't give you all the shit. You still had to write it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You still had to write it. You still had to ask somebody what do you think? You know what I'm saying? You had to kind of converse to cheat your way through that paper, essentially, if you didn't read it. ChatGPT literally just consumes everything on the net and puts it out for you. You go in there and change some words, and that's it. Turn it in. I don't know if they've gotten to the point where they can tell that it's ChatGPT papers.
I think
I would love to find out.
To a degree, that I think there's some, you can run it through something and it can look for like AI writing or something. I don't know how accurate it is, but
yeah, this whole AI thing taking over everything is very scary, and I don't necessarily like it. Like, I like it for certain uses.
Yeah.
But when he starts talking about nobody likes music or nobody wants to create music, that's just weird to me.
Well, I mean, people get into things for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know, look, I, once again, being the oldest of the new old heads, I'm going to reference something that probably people have no idea what it is. Well, on the show Different Strokes, back in the day, Arnold wanted to impress this girl by being in a band. And he said he could play the saxophone, but he couldn't. But of course, since, you know, Mr. Drummond had that money, Clarence Clemens from the E Street Band came on and would give him lessons. And he said, if I practice really hard every day for a week, how good could I be? And it's like, you're going to stink.
Yeah.
Because you can't get good at playing the saxophone in a week. And, you know, once again, the support now, someone would be like, all right, well, if I can't get good playing saxophone in a week, then I'm not going to try.
Everything.
It's just, it's just like, what do you mean? I can't take 2 classes, get a controller, and I can't play my high school dance after 2 lessons?
Yeah.
Well, why would I want to do this?
That's actually was one of his, in this video, which is a really great video. He referenced it. I think it was part 3, was like a try hard. He was like, I'm okay with being called a try hard because I try hard at the things that I like.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to. And that's, you know, it's just, we've talked about this a couple of, you know, like a handful of weeks ago too, about like this whole idea about trying not being cool anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like,
you have to realize you have to you have to know within yourself if I'm not ready
Yeah.
to step out in front of people. You know what I'm saying? There's things that I'm doing right now that nobody knows because I'm not comfortable with letting you see what I'm doing.
Right.
Until I'm to that level to where it's up to par without a cheat code, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not built like that. And I'm hoping, I think this story is making me wonder how many people are built like that.
Right.
To where they want to use these tools just to parade around like they actually are this.
I just tell people, hey man, the podcast was not this good 350 episodes ago.
Right.
You know, I still hear people like, man, I think I should do a podcast. And I want to say, do you want to do it because you think there's going to be some instant gratification and you're going to be able to, you think Coca-Cola and Mercedes-Benz are going to sponsor your podcast after 3 episodes? Or do you want to do this because you actually have something to say and you have the want to do better? Yeah. Because like when you start out,
why?
You know, because when you start out, it's even like I listened to, you guys did episodes, because like I said, I wasn't on from the very beginning for people who haven't been with us for this whole ride. I listened to the episodes that you guys didn't even put out.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
we did like 8 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a thing to where like, you know, there are people who just think I'm going to turn on the microphone and it's going to be magic. And it's like, no, like y'all did 8 episodes that nobody heard.
And even our first like 10 were still ass anyways. So.
And like, no, and that's real, because nobody wants to think that like what I'm putting out here, like if you automatically think you're going to be the Joe Budden podcast.
Yeah, you can't do that with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, as I consider myself a professional DJ.
Yes.
There are sets that I've done out that I cannot stand. Like, I'm like, what the was that?
Right.
And there's people that will literally walk up to me like, man, that was dope. I'm like,
no, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? I'm like, that wasn't dope. I didn't like that, like at all. And there's nothing you can tell me that's going to change my mind. But I don't care if 5 people come tell me that.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
I still, I feel like, no, that wasn't dope. I didn't like it at all. I felt like I was missing the mark. I felt like I could have did this and I didn't do that. That comes as somebody that embraces a craft and wants to actually be there, versus somebody that's doing it just to be seen.
For the adulation.
You know what I'm saying?
When we do this show, we feel like we're contributing something to the culture.
Facts.
You know, because I wouldn't show up here just to be in here bullshitting. You know, just to, I mean, because I'm not saying there are other podcasts like that, but I think it's easier where you just turn on the microphones and you'd be like, did you see what so-and-so said about so-and-so? And it'd be like, man, and these, why women be shopping? You know, like it's so easy to do that. And that's what a lot of podcasts are. And a lot of times those podcasts is frustrating because you see them talking about basically nothing at all. And you look at the numbers and be like, what? Wow.
People want to be seen. And I think that's where the average person differentiates for somebody that's going to rely on this particular type of technology in order to make their tool to make their music for them. Because I don't think we have problems even advertising ourselves. You know what I'm saying? This is something we love doing. This is therapeutic to me.
Facts.
But I'm not a big advertiser for what we do. Like I do it here and there, and I should be better about that. But to me, it's not like shining a light on myself is bigger than myself. This is just something that we do that I love doing. But it's not about me. And I think a lot of people view things that they want to do as something that
centering them.
Yeah, just putting them in the forefront in the spotlight. And I want to be that person. So I'm going to use this AI to make this album, and I'm going to push it like crazy, even though I didn't write none of this shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I thought about like 3 or 4 years ago in the back of my mind, so I can create just a dummy name. I can just pump all this music out there. I already know how to put all this on all these platforms.
But you were going to actually make it.
Nah.
Oh, so you really were gonna go?
I was gonna like trick the system that was already tricking off me, like tricking me on, like
that's a bar.
You know.
I can't remember if we talked about this, but the guy who literally made all these AI songs and knew how to do the bots and basically made $10 million off of AI songs and tricking the system, and you know he got federally charged. I'm like,
they went after him.
I was like, I'm sorry, but
Pirate Bay. Of
he
AI.
didn't. I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, he just figured a way to make it happen for himself in the game that he was given. You know,
That's
he's still going to
looked at it, but
yeah, he's still going to jail, I think. But
but I do remember that story. But I was like, man, they're not paying for nothing. I bet there's a way that I can figure out how to finagle this system.
Yeah,
you know.
He probably went. Now, if he'd have just done it to where he was getting like $500,000-$600,000, maybe
stay out the way.
But sometimes when you take it to the next level and they got to write you a check for $10 million, somebody's like,
once he hit that first million, he should have.
I'd have stopped at $1 million.
Is it?
Yeah, what it was supposed to do. 10 million, you doing
10 million.
much,
Somebody's going to be like, all right, we got to see what's going on
people
here.
pulling up at that point.
There's people who do concerts and put out albums on the Billboard charts that don't generate $10 million off of streaming.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, though, regardless of AI, there are people that do get into the music game specifically to chart for one reason, and that's to make a viral hit, and that's it.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
This is true. Yep.
That's a fact. So I guess it's not too far-fetched to think that somebody would use AI in order to generate a whole situation.
Think about
themselves on.
Being famous is more important than being great.
There it is. Think about what we're talking about. When you're in a generation or you're in an era where people are rewarded for, things of that nature, or the simplicity that you're talking about, people are going to try to go cut as many steps out as possible to get to the point, because they know the more numbers, the more people are going to start paying attention. And the next thing you know, mama, we made it.
And I'm not, to some extent, I'm not even like super upset at the people. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a big system blamer. Like,
Like
that's the way that I like to kind of lean towards this, but at the same time, it's like kind of showcases this inherent problem with self-worth.
Yeah.
Like if you feel like you want to be famous after 2 weeks of doing something, or you want to be good after, like, you don't want to put any work into it. It's like, who raised you type thing.
So I saw, Lone, you'll be able to understand this. I saw a video. I should have sent it to you, but I forgot. Of a gentleman that was talking about what you mentioned, Splice. And it was a producer conversation. And they were talking about how they were opposed. There was one person that was, I'm dragging and dropping, and we getting right to it. And the other guy was like, yeah, I like some of the loops that are in there, but I'll manipulate them. I'll chop them up. I'll rearrange them. I'll change some sounds. I'll create my own version of what's what. And they were going back and forth talking about it. And the guy that was a drag and drop got so frustrated, and he kept saying, why are you working why are you trying to work so hard? Why are you being so creative when it's already done for you? And I looked at it, I'm like, I felt so weird, because I felt the other guy where he's like, no, I can flip it. I can freak it. We're going to turn it into my version of what this is.
We need to start calling these people something specific. Like you're not a producer.
What do we call it?
A manipulator.
The other guy,
master manipulator?
Yes, a master manipulator.
Bro, I felt the other guy, because he's like, nah, I got my own vision. I'm just going to use this as a template, like sampling.
Yeah.
The other guy was like, nah, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, we out of here.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's going to create a lot of dummies, in the future. But
where's John Connor when we?
Oh man, I don't even think Gobo know who John Connor is, but we'll show him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
NewOldHeads.com for all the education you need this year. If you see it, like it, give us a 5-star rating. And also, you made it this far, please do us a favor. Hit the like button and subscribe. And also remember, do not forget to check out our Patreon page for all of our unedited versions of our episodes. We appreciate the support, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Bye.